Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the,
Aquí estoy en la junta.
I'm sorry.
Jose
Oh,
Dorado, please mute. There we go.
Dorado. Jose.
I've
Oh.
muted.
He's fine now. He has it all. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Thank you all for attending the NSA Ad Hoc. We have a few things to discuss this evening, and we're going to go through first of all and have everybody introduce themselves because there are some new people, at least, new people for the ad hoc. And so we'll just go around. I'm Brenda Harbin Forte, Commissioner, and I chair this NSA Ad Hoc. Jesse, Commissioner Shea.
I'm Jesse. I'm a commissioner. Hi.
And in terms of what we do, how about let's tell people what we do too. I'm a retired Alameda County Superior Court judge. Commissioner Shea.
I'm a public defender in San Francisco.
All right. And Nikki, why don't we have you introduce yourself?
Sure, Nikki Den. I go by she, her pronouns, and I work at a nonprofit. I'm also an attorney.
Okay. And go ahead, Mariano.
Mariano Contreras, 48 years resident in Oakland. I'm an owner-operator, graphic arts equipment repair company. Thank you.
All right. And Jose? Unmute, yes.
Okay. Born and raised in Oakland, own a small tax preparation bookkeeping business here in the Fruitvale. Chicano activist for the last 50 years. Was formerly part of the original 7 on the Police Commission. I'm the chair of the Maxwell Park Neighborhood Council, member of the African American Latino Action Alliance, also member of the Latino Task Force.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
Very good. Thank you. Lieutenant Collange.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nicholas Collange. I'm a lieutenant with the Oakland Police Department. I've worked with the department since 2006 and currently assigned to the Office of Internal Accountability, which was previously known as the Office of the Inspector General, OIG. And I am a commander in that Bureau of Risk Management, assigned to facilitate a lot of our IMT monitor relations and work towards NSA sustainability and compliance.
Okay. And Chair Malele, I see that you've joined us too.
Hello, hi, I'm Takara Malele, Chair of the Police Commission, mother of 3 Oakland District 7 resident, and right now I'm at my son's track meet. He goes to Oak Tech, so I'm double dipping right now because I can't miss that. But his races are for a while, so happy to see everyone and nice to meet you. I think Nikki might be the only person I haven't met so far. So nice.
Thank you, and Pastor Jackie.
Good evening, everyone. Forgive my tardiness. I am Jacqueline Thompson, Senior Pastor of the Allen Temple Baptist Church in Oakland, California. And it is so good to be joining you all once again in this very, very necessary and important work.
Thank you very much. Okay, what we'll do is to go through what happened in court yesterday. I want to summarize the court proceedings. You have you've been emailed a copy of the slides that I'm going to go through. And what I'm going to do is share my screen. And I probably will still end up reading a lot from the slides, though I don't typically like to do that, but I think that it'll be good to summarize what happened. To a commission counsel, let me have you introduce yourself. I apologize.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Hi, Thuy Nguyen, Commission Counsel. Looking forward to working with you and assisting in any way that's necessary, particularly as this is framed within the court proceedings. Go Tech Bulldogs, although I'm more of a knight, Castlemont Knight, but go Bulldogs for now.
Yeah. They're all right, you know. I'm McClymon's warrior and stuff myself, you know. So anyway, okay, so I'm gonna screen share. I'm gonna try to do this right. And
And
when I
then-
finish,
Could I just
when I-
interrupt? Perhaps
I'm
you
so-
could, just give us a brief overview of what the evening is going to be like, not just the debrief, but what else we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay, in addition to the to going through the court appearance and stuff, one of the things that we will some of the things that we'll talk about is one of the things we're going to do is to I'm just going to call it a protocol reset, as we will discuss the ad hoc committee and the ad hoc participation. I'm going to have Commissioner Shea lead that discussion. We're going to talk about the additional tasks that we will be may have to deal with compliance on, given the court's decision yesterday. One of the things that, given what happened yesterday, it's clear that the NSA Ad Hoc is going to be operational for another several months. We would say September, and I suppose that if we get out from under federal oversight by September, this ad hoc, this limited ad hoc, won't need to continue in operation. And at that point, the chair will probably may set up then a standing committee for NSA compliance. But that will factor into a number of factors will determine that decision. So we will go through that. One of the things that you'll get out of my summary of what happened yesterday is that the court is really looking for a way to figure out where we go from here, what role the commission can play and will play. And we'll talk a little bit about strategy in terms of where we go from here. So what the ad hoc should be doing and what recommendations we should make to the entire commission about what the commission can be doing in the interim. So I'll do a screen share, and then we will go through a slideshow. Okay, here we go, screen share. And let's see. Okay, let me see if I can get this PowerPoint up. Okay. What did I do wrong? Okay, there we go. Let me start the slideshow.
Commissioner, when you hit share screen, the green button at the bottom, a
Yes.
window should pop up with options for you to select what you want to share, and you'll want to share the PowerPoint. Oh. Darn, I think she accidentally hit leave, but she'll be back.
Maybe I can pull it up and then that way, or we can put it up and that way Brenda can focus on talking.
Do we all just take our own notes, or does somebody take notes for our meetings?
We are taking, I've been taking my own notes for as long as I can remember in these ad hocs. I'm happy to share my notes as I work through them.
Yeah, is it on like a Google Doc or something that is easy to just collaborate on?
We are on a Outlook doc, Microsoft, or I've been using Microsoft Word. I'm gonna figure out how I do that.
It's pretty hard with Microsoft Teams because everybody needs,
Microsoft, yeah.
Or like the online login, but
Okay, so who's surprised that I lost you? Okay, now we got, okay, Kelly, what should I do?
So
Such a Luddite.
Jesse has shared the PowerPoint. It might maybe make more sense for you to so sorry, Twee has shared the PowerPoint. So it might make sense to then you can just say advance to the next slide and just, focus on the
Can we get then the screen larger? Can we enlarge the slide?
Yes.
Okay,
Tweet, Twee, if actually you see next to that, you see the little, yes, that one. Oh,
and we go full screen on it. Okay. Okay. Can is that the end? Can we have everything on one page?
Twee, I'm not sure why your slideshow shows that way, but maybe if you want to go back to 100% zoom and then click and and then re-click that. Oh, nope, you don't want to zoom in. I would say leave it at 100% zoom.
Okay,
The center. It's at 170 right now. And then
Yeah.
click that the fourth button.
okay. Can I try something too? Oh, no, that's okay. No, that's okay.
Is
Um,
okay.
Kelly, do you have the slide?
Yes.
Yeah,
Let me pull
would you
that
go
up.
ahead and do the share? It sounds like it may be best through you because of the count.
Sure. Let me just.
Grazie.
NSA, oh boy. PowerPoint.
Wish that I could do a screen share.
I think this will be fine. I'm just gonna close some windows. Okay. And then share.
So you can't see my screen. Can I get a screen? Can I somehow get a screen share?
I think this should work. One moment.
Okay,
There you go.
okay. All right.
I'm just
Everybody
waiting for it to-
remain calm. We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Are you able to see it now, full screen, the way you want?
Yeah,
it?
that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Mhm.
Everybody can see. Okay, this is just showing you basically who appeared at for the parties at yesterday's proceedings. You see the attorneys there, the city attorneys, city representatives that were there, and the police commission representatives were there, except Bonnie Garcia was not in attendance. It was the chair and I and our attorney Twee. The interim director of CIPRA was there, and the IG was there as well. Next slide. Who's advancing slides?
It is me. It is I. Is that the next slide?
Mm-hmm. All right. And so these are from the court's minutes, the court's official records. And by the way, Lieutenant Collonge was also in attendance there. So we had people in the audience who were present there at the hearing. It was a public hearing. It was open to the public. Other members were there too, members of the department and other members of the public. Okay, with respect to the court minutes, it's just summarizing what happened, that the status conference was held, and that the court indicated that the focus of the hearing is on how the court can support the city of Oakland so that it achieves full compliance with the NSA. The court and the parties talked fairly candidly about the success that OPD has achieved during federal oversight and the good work that has gone on and the changes and even some of the cultural changes. And so that part of it was good. But the court did recognize that there are still some issues. And so the court kept saying, tell me what the court can do to help get us beyond the sustainability period and out from federal oversight. And then Assistant Chief Allison, next slide, please, did talk about the current efforts of OPD. Plaintiff's counsel Jim Channon spoke to the ongoing importance of court supervision. And as an aside, Jim Channon also wanted to talk about the circumstances surrounding the chief of police termination and why that was necessary. And the judge basically cut him off and said, why are we talking about Chief Armstrong? That's not where we are today. I want to know what we're going to have, what's going to happen going forward. John Burris did stress the need for consistent leadership. Rocky Lucia, who represents OPOA, and he said, he too remarked upon the fact that this is not the old Oakland Police Department. Jim Channon and John Burris also said the same thing, that the problems that existed before at the beginning of the NSA, at the beginning of the Delphine Allen lawsuit, are not there. And so we're not having the same kinds of cases, and we're not having to bring the same kinds of lawsuits that we brought at the beginning of this. So they all recognize that there have been some very positive changes in Oakland. Dr. Malele, Chair Malele, was also heard, and we're going to go through the statement that she made. And Chair Malele emphasized that it's time to turn it over for citizen oversight, as did the attorneys as well, and to a certain extent, once there's been compliance. But Chair Malele talked about the importance of letting the citizens oversee the Oakland Police Department, and also reassured the court that the commission is ready to take over those tasks. And then City Attorney Bridget Martin also advocated that the monitor's oversight be focused on remaining areas of non-compliance. And then Mayor Tao addressed the court and talked about her intent and her actions and her commitment to support constitutional policing in the city of Oakland. The court did find that the city is still out of compliance with the NSA and that the sustainability period will be extended, and set a further case management conference for September 26th of 2023. And the court at that time, at that case management conference, will discuss the city's compliance, and will again solicit the parties' advice regarding the path forward. And the court really does want to know, and kept asking, as I said, what can the court do? What can the court do to help us move beyond and recognize that at some point, court oversight is going to have to end. And what can we do to give the court reassurance that constitutional policing will continue? So next slide, please.
Before we go to the next slide, I thought maybe it's a good time to ask if anyone has any questions about some of the statements or any thoughts about any of those statements.
Let's get through what Chair Malele said to the court, and then we can go back and see if anybody has any thoughts about what's reported and what Chair Malele said. So let's go to the next slide. So these are the remarks that that Commissioner Malele made to the court, and she basically said that she had 3 points to make, and emphasized that the citizens of Oakland have voted to have citizen oversight of the police department, and that at the January hearing, the mayor said that she was committed to providing the resources, and basically third, that the work of the monitor has been monumental. It's basically time to let oversight be done by the police commission and its agencies. So I'll give you a few minutes to read the whole statement there. As Rocky Lucia was also very adamant in saying that, you know, we need to get rid of court oversight. John Burrs, after the hearing, was joking, saying, well, you guys were up there saying, let my people go. It's kind of like, yeah. So, and why don't we do one more slide, and then I'll go back and see if anybody wants it. I want to give you the reaction to Chair Malele's remarks. Excuse me. The court did indicate that it appreciated the expression of readiness on the part of the police commission to assume oversight, and that the parties do need to achieve full compliance. And what the court is doing is deliberating on how to best ensure that oversight continues as effectively as possible. So why don't we stop it here, and then I'll see if anybody has any reactions to what you've heard so far. Anyone? Thoughts, questions? Mariano?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Harvey-Forte. Yeah, I thought one of the comments that was really striking was from Mayor Sheng Tao. She, as she was reflecting on changing the culture of OPD, how best to achieve that is by folding the OPD culture into the Oakland culture. And so I thought, I have never heard anyone express it in those terms. So I thought that was really striking and a very thoughtful comment on that, because that's the way, you know, if you have a few, you know, that are sticking to a particular culture, but the general culture is different, then you fold that specific into the larger one. So I thought that was pretty remarkable. Thank you.
No, sure. Thank you. Anyone else? Any thoughts, comments, observations from what you heard if you listened to the case management conference, or whether you were there in person? Any other thoughts or concerns? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I think I just am asking for context. Was this the conversation that was expected with Judge Orrick, or was it like unknown when you all were coming in?
Was it expected?
Yeah.
Yes, it was very much expected, because he wanted to know what we can do. How is the city going to achieve compliance once federal oversight is done? So in his January orders, when he talked about, you know, want everybody get together, I want to know, you know, what plan do you have? How do we get beyond compliance? So it was very much expected.
Thank you.
And we were happy. In the past, the police commission had not been invited to the table with the parties or with the court. So this is the first time that the court specifically wanted to hear directly from the police commission about what the plan was. Good question. Jose, your hand is up. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I just had a question about, and you and Jesse may be able to expand on it, but I'm a little confused about the part of the chairs. Well, the chairs here. I just wanted a little expansion on the comment that there's no question in my mind that the commission, reflecting on the lived experience of the community, can and will do more thoughtful work on these particular issues than the monitor can. The court should now allow the people and their commission to take the lead. Chairman Lele, can you expand on that? Because I'm a little confused as to where the court has not allowed the commission to do this this work. I'm a little fuzzy on.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mr. Dorado. I was referring to the fact that since I became chair, we have passed 22 policies that were directed by the monitor. And the policy that I want to dive into is racial profiling and disparate enforcement of the law. And those don't seem to be the priorities of the monitor. And most recently, 8 more policies that we'll have to deal with the precious volunteer time that we have, including whether or not the chief reads the reports. And that means less time available to deal with the issues that I, for one, came to the police commission for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so there's policies that the monitor has put forward that have not addressed disparate enforcement of the law and racial profiling. Is that correct?
At least in my time.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to go back and take a look at that and think about that. But yeah, thank you very much. That does clarify what my question was. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Jesse?
Did the judge extend the sustainability period or leave it in place? Is there an end date to the sustainability period at this time? Are there other dates that we should be aware of besides the 9/26 CMC meeting date?
Let's try. Yes, the judge has not issued the final order, but it was clear by setting a September date that the sustainability period has been extended. I think it was supposed to end around June or so.
Okay, so he basically is taking it under submission and deciding, or will in his order say when the new sustainability period is. It could be, at this point, we don't know.
That we do not know. We do know that we go back in September and he'll make further orders from there. So, and with respect to the kinds of things that the commission is so tied up with, all of our time has been going on trying to get to compliance and trying to deal with all the policies on a fast track, including the 8 new policies that the police commission or the police department has proposed. So they're going to have to go through, the monitor is going to have to review those policies. Eventually they will come to the police commission and we're going to have to approve of them. And then they're going to go through, go to meet and confer if necessary. They may come back to the commission. So there's going to be a lot. And I think what the judge wants to see is the implementation of these new policies to see how they're going to work. And in the meantime, we have, for example, a committee of the whole on racial profiling. And the commission has not had time to deal with that racial profiling aspect of its work because we've been too busy doing other things and dealing with policies. In addition, we don't need to talk about the money, but that means, of course, that there's just more money coming out of Oakland's coffers and going into the pocket of the monitor. So, and what we really need are more SIPRA investigators, for example, so that if we ever get to the point of taking over internal affairs investigations, we're going to need some investigators with SIPRA. And that right now, they're too short-staffed to do that. So let's go to the next, and the next slide might also help us. Let's go to the next slide, please. So basically the highlight of the court proceedings is that a court order. And by the way, also the judge did say something about June 1, Twee. Do you remember what he said he'd like to see by June 1? I'll go back to my notes and we'll look at it. But the key date is September 26th. So the court order, along with the proceedings, the transcript of the proceedings will be forthcoming. We'll provide that to you. The next case management conference is September 26th. The court indicated that it was considering adding some other oversight compliance matters, so that rather than 5 and 45, looks like it's they may add 2. 24 and 25. And then plaintiff's counsel said that we should add, that the court should add tasks 34, and we'll go through a description of those before. And Lieutenant Colonge, you have your hand up, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just wanted to clarify something. Under the sustainability period, we've been actively monitoring 11 of the original NSA tasks. The others were sort of set into a not remission phase, but we're not actively monitored. But of the 11 tasks that are currently being actively monitored under sustainability, all of the ones you see on the screen there are part of that cadre. So the discussion yesterday during the hearing was to reduce the 11 actively monitored tasks to 2, 5, 24, 25, 45, and then there was some debate as to 34. So it's, I just want to clarify, it's not an addition of sort of older tasks or a renewal of older tasks, but sort of a keeping of these core sets. 2 and 5 are IAD related, 24 and 25 are use of force related, 45 is disparity of discipline, and task 34 is our stop data task. So it's keeping these as sort of a core set moving forward into September.
Okay, all right, thank you for that clarification there.
Thank you.
And then Mayor Tao recognized the civilian oversight role, and she also stated something that we did not know, that she plans to hire a dedicated civilian staff person in the mayor's office under the city administrator, and that person would essentially oversee the police department from her office. And we didn't quite know, we're not sure what the implications of this are. Does it mean that that OPD is going to be reporting to the staff person and answering to the staff person? How will that staff person interface with the police commission? Who basically is going to be actually doing the oversight for the Oakland Police. I mean, under the charter, of course, it is the police commission, but this, the mayor does want to put somebody in her office and give them civilian oversight authority. So again, this was a surprise to us. We had not heard that, and we don't really know what it means. So there will need to be some discussions of how this is going to, there's a possible conflict with the city charter, because it's very clear that it's the Oakland Police Commission and those citizens that are selected in a representative capacity, and not one person who may well be beholden to the mayor and doing whatever the mayor decides should be done. So that we'll figure that out. And the court did focus on concerns around the need for culture change in OPD. That was stressed, that the culture just has to change. And while there have certainly been some improvements in culture, but you know, everything, the most recent incidents are cause for concern. The court did recognize, though, that nothing is perfect, and that the court will not be expecting perfection from OPD, because things are going to happen. And the court said things are going to happen, stuff will happen. But, you know, we think with the appropriate oversight and also appropriate leadership at the police department, that that there won't be a need for further court oversight at some point in the future. So let us get to the next slide, please. So right now, the active monitoring then, or possible compliance tasks that the court will be continuing to look at, will be task 2, that is the timeline, standards, and complaint compliance with IAD investigations, the complaint procedures for IAD, which is task 5. Task 24 is the use of force reporting policy. Task 25, use of force investigation and report responsibilities. Task 45, as we know, is the consistency of discipline. And task 34, which the plaintiff's counsel wants the court to basically continue monitoring of, is vehicle stops, field investigations, and active detentions. Next slide, please. And the next slide is really for your information. That's just a list of all of the NSA tasks. It's hard to read, but when you get, you can print out a slide and see, but that is all of the NSA tasks. Okay. So that is it. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Lieutenant Calange.
Thank you, ma'am. On the previous slide, if I could just go back one.
Yes.
Thank you. I just felt compelled to clarify. So of these tasks listed here, all of them were or recently or are currently still considered in compliance by the monitoring team and were reported as such in the last IMT report. It is really the task 2 and 5 that remain out of compliance based on recent issues that I'm sure we're all well aware of that have arisen in this current year regarding IAD investigations and timeliness of them. So the other tasks are still on the block to be actively monitored, but are as of right now considered in compliance by the court.
Okay. It's 5 and 45 though, or 2 is also at risk.
The timelines are holding as we speak. It's 5 currently that has been knocked out of compliance this year from a recent in compliance finding in the later part of last year.
Okay.
Sorry, that I don't think I understand what the court was signaling around 24, 25, 45, and possibly plaintiff's counsel asking about 34. Were there any like concrete next steps, or was it just a signal to say like they're interested in looking at those again?
I couldn't quite understand why, and it was Jim Channon who was saying, look at task 34. And the judge did ask the city attorney for what her view was on task 34, whether there should be basically some active monitoring of that now. The city attorney thought that there shouldn't be. And one of the things the judge said, well, when you come back in September, do you want to just, have us go through these things that sort of people don't have an objection about? And task 34, then we get back in September and there's a problem with task 34? Or would you rather have task 34 be added to the list now? And so when we come back in September, we will have a reading on that. But the city attorneys thought that, again, that task, 24 and 25 were sort of not necessary to continue active monitoring on. But I don't really know. Lieutenant Calange, did you get a sense? What was your sense of it? And Twee, Commission Counsel, what was your sense? Lieutenant Calange?
Yes, ma'am. I think that was a fair assessment, Commissioner. The high profile nature of internal affairs investigations and of uses of force made it sort of apparent that those should be continually and actively monitored for the remainder of the sustainability period. We have been the longest in compliance with task 24 and 25 out of the ones listed here on the screen, maybe 34 as well. But it's been over a year that we've been declared in compliance on 24 and 25. We have a good structure in place currently in the department where we are actively investigating uses of force cases and then auditing the investigations of those uses of force in the aftermath of it, or at least a sample of them. And so the monitoring team has expressed great pleasure with the process as it stands now with those 2 tasks. So there was some sense perhaps before the hearing that perhaps we wouldn't have to be actively monitored on those because we were showing such good, consistent, sustained effort in that realm. But when the judge pushed back on that, I think the city just defaulted to, well, that's okay. We have a good system in place and we're confident in it and we're happy to continue to receive active monitoring on 24 and 25, even if we do think we're doing so good at it that we could maybe get credit for it now. So it was like a fallback position.
Can I just interject because I was not there and I still don't quite understand how this all came about. But I think I can take a good stab and let me know if that's what happened or not. We are in a sustainability period, and currently in that sustainability period, there are a number of tasks that need to be monitored and have been reported on. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. That list is longer than the list we have on the screen right now. Yes?
Correct.
at the CMC hearing that happened yesterday, the city attorney suggested or maybe asked the judge, hey, we've been in compliance with all these things. Can we just not monitor all these things except for the things that are out of compliance? Or like sort of or made some request to reduce the number of things to be actively monitored? Is that what was going on?
You're very close, sir. Yeah. That was part of the game plan going in, and I think the city was prepared to argue that position. The judge got ahead of it in his opening remarks and basically beat us to the punch, declaring that he was considering reducing the number of actively monitored tasks to the ones listed at the top there that commissioner has labeled as court. So that was the judge's idea. And then Mr. Shannon suggested adding 34 as well. And then the judge heard from many of the parties in the room about their opinion on that. And City Attorney Martin offered that she felt that the active monitoring of 34 wasn't quite as necessary because we cover the same ground via 2, 5, 24, and 25.
So, yeah, so it was sort of like the judge's sort of kind of like tentative ruling at the beginning of the hearing. This is what I'm thinking about.
And then I guess the next question after that for me is, although the judge has identified a smaller subset of things to be focused on for monitoring for the next 5 months or so, most of these things, as you mentioned, Lieutenant Galloge, are in compliance. So for purposes of this ad hoc, are we really looking at tasks 24, 25, 45, and 34? Or are we focusing on 2 and 5? As what we had sort of talked about at the beginning, or what we have been working on before.
Well, we were working on 5 and 45. And so 45, I think, is still going to be, I don't know. And by the way, before I try to answer, let me go to Twee, our commission counsel. Did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think clearly we need to wait for the judge's order to cut through the chase of this conversation of what is going to be the focus for compliance. But subtext to all of this is the judge made it also very clear that in many ways he placed us under sustainability when we were actually not really fully in compliance, because the whole notion is you're fully in compliance and then 1 year of sustaining that full compliance period. And so I think this may be a component of his of revisiting really how fully compliant or even some of these tasks that may seem to have been in compliance may not actually really be in compliance during the sustainability. So the subtext was that. The other is with regards to plaintiff's counsel with task 34. It particularly was around the racial vehicle stops and the racial profiling potentially around that, or at least the disparate impact with regard to that. So that's why plaintiff's counsel was insisting that be part and parcel. And the city as a whole was just asking the judge to please narrow the scope of tasks for us. We still plan to be in compliance with all 52 tasks, right? But narrow the scope because there's a lot of work that comes with preparing for a court report on these tasks. Even though it's in no way to suggest that the city was not going to be compliant. Bridget Martin, who represented the city attorney's office, particularly pointed out, for instance, tasks 24 and 25, because it's part and parcel of an investigation. It seemed redundant because, task 2 and task 5 already speak to that. And so that's why she was trying to narrow the number of tasks for the city. But I think at the end of the day, we're just going to have to see what the court finally says. That will then define in many ways where our ad hoc will be.
When would that order come out? Or
Usually, quite frankly, his order comes out almost immediately, but I think he's really taking it under submission in terms of just really thinking through in light of the dynamics of yesterday.
And there was good discussion, because I mean, certainly there's a part of him that would just like to get it over with, get everybody in compliance, because he knows basically that, you know, the court can't oversee the Oakland Police Department forever, and it's been already more than 20 years. So it's like, you know, it has to end at some point. But tell me, you know, give me reassurances and of what we can do. And Acting Chief Allison was very good, gave a great presentation on, you know, what can be done and what has been done, and suggestion that that OPD is just about ready to graduate, so to speak. But the judge is still troubled, and of course the latest incident didn't help anybody out, and there is still another investigation that's ongoing. We don't have the we don't know when a report about that investigation is going to come, but Clarence Dyer has another complaint that it is investigating. Excuse me. And the subjects of that new case have not been made public, or the allegations have not been made public. So
Mariano has his hand up.
okay, Mariano.
So this is the first time that the judge has invited the police commission to be part of the discussions around the monitoring and the CMC procedures.
Yes.
But please someone correct me if I'm wrong. The responsibility of the police commission is not to have the Oakland Police Department comply with the NSA tasks that were delineated. That's not the responsibility of the police commission. The police commission is responsible for establishing methods and policies during the sustainability and after the NSA is gone, after the consent decree is gone, to make sure that that compliance is sustainable from now until, forever. So I guess my question is, do the three commissioners believe that this ad hoc should be involved with assuring compliance, or are we to work with how to establish methods and policies after compliance? That's my question.
And I will say that I don't know that there is a difference, because we have to ensure constitutional policing can exist. If the judge says what's going on now is not gonna be constitutional policing, then I see that our part of our role certainly is to make sure that OPD is in compliance with these tasks. It's not mutually exclusive, and there are other things that the commission should do. But as long as we have a federal judge who's saying that constitutional policing is not occurring in Oakland, and as a police commission, we are supposed to ensure that constitutional policing occurs in Oakland, I don't know how we can get around it. That's kind of my thought. I'll hear from council and from Commissioner Shea. Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Harbin Forte. If I may share, and I'd be more than happy to share the full PowerPoint of this. This is a presentation I did to the commission in October, and you will see here, hopefully you'll be able to see here where I cited city charter requirements, powers and duties of the commission, and it speaks to policy, procedure, custom, general order, et cetera, and alongside several subject matter, use of force, etc., or which contains elements expressly listed in the federal court orders as it relates, and this is a reference to the NSA. So it is the commission's chartered responsibility around the NSA. I'll put it in the chat room if you wish to take a look at it too.
I don't have a whole lot to add. I mean, I think that we're not active in the steps of necessarily, we as a commission are not active in the auditing or in the sort of deal in the nitty gritty of what are you doing, how are you doing it, how are you making sure, but we are the ones who are both setting the expectations with whoever is going to be the chief or the acting chief, as well as commenting, editing, writing, and having hearings on the policies, from which we work on those issues that would eventually lead to NSA compliance, or we would hope lead to NSA compliance, ensuring that those things are there.
And I think also that what we need to do is, you know, our work is going to be tied to NSA and compliance, because these policies, even the 8 that have just been developed, they're going to have to come to the commission. Typically, the commission sets up an ad hoc to review policies. And so we have to get the ad hoc done. We got to figure out whether the proposed policy is workable, have the commission adopt the proposed policy and take a vote on it and stuff. So it's all tied up, and those kinds of responsibilities are not going to go away until we don't have federal oversight anymore. We will still have our responsibility to review policies and to recommend policies, but until there is, until we're out of compliance, until we are beyond compliance, then we are going to have to deal with OPD's compliance with the NSA. Does that answer your question, Mariano? And Twee, you still have your hand up. I'll come to you in a few minutes. Okay.
So also my question is, so before this NSA ad hoc or this invitation by the judge, was the commission doing, you know, compliance work? Because I don't believe it was. You know, so I mean, I'd love this ad hoc to sit and talk about, you know, the racial profiling, IED investigations, how to set some robust metrics to, you know, to evaluate complaints that come from residents, and instead of having the majority of them being unsustained, how, you know, because people aren't making this stuff up, you know, how can we change those evaluating metrics so that we can change that compliance task? So yeah, my question is so before the court invited the commission to participate in this, what was the commission doing this kind of work before? Thank you.
Absolutely. Commissioner, the chairman, Lele, has her hand up, but of course, the answer is absolutely. All of those policy ad hocs and everything else, many of them came out of the NSA compliance work. Chairman Lele?
Yeah, I was just going to add that in addition to setting the direction of what policies we have to look at, they also come with a deadline. So when I came on as chair, I was told these 5 policies need to be passed in, I believe it was something like 2 months. And so it's also commissioners working 2-3 times a week on somebody else's timeline, on somebody else's priorities. And that's why we keep coming back to this, because what you just said about what kinds of things we could be evaluating and looking at, that's why I'm here. That's what I would love to be doing, rather than checking somebody else's boxes on someone else's timeline to the tune of 30 hours a week unpaid. So that's all I have for that.
Yeah, and I the police department brings policies to us. Many of them have been generated by the monitors' work and recommendations and directives in terms of revising or creating policies on things. And now those 8 that needed to be done based, the new policies that were needed based on the Clarence Dyer report. Again, the police department has already done drafts of most of them. I think 5 or 6 of them have already gone to the monitor for their review and everything. They haven't come back they have not come to the commission yet. And that is going to be, depending on what kind of timeline, that is going to be another crunch time for the commission to get them reviewed, get them done, get them revised, if necessary, back to the police department, possibly back to the commission before they're finally approved. And then and I guess once they're drafted, the monitor is going to have to approve them initially, and then probably an ad hoc. So we have been very much, for the time that I have been on the commission, and I came on in July 2020, it has been primarily compliance work and dealing with the NSA and trying to get everything done, and trying to satisfy the monitor, and trying to keep the department in compliance so we can move on to some other things. And as I mentioned, we have a committee of the whole, which means that the entire commission, a commission as a whole, the entire commission is supposed to be working on the racial profiling, the entire commission. But we don't have, our agendas are very full, as you can see, and we have not had a lot of time to sit down as a commission of the whole and do much on racial profiling. And that's what people need to do. We have been working on CIPRA compliance, CIPRA procedures, and that is going to be coming before the commission on Thursday, the first draft. And Mariana, you're on that committee. So that is part of the thing that we need to get in place, not technically compliance, except at some point the CIPRA is supposed to take over internal affairs, and they don't have the bodies or the training to do that now. But we have done we've done the work on that. Body worn camera policy was probably that came from the monitor to get a body worn camera policy. We spent time on that. And finally, at the last meeting, or one of the previous meetings in March, the commission approved that body worn camera policy. But we've been spending a lot of time on compliance stuff. Anyone else with any comments? If not, I'd like to kind of transition to a discussion about a reset, and then about a protocol reset. And then we'll talk about the task, and then just sort of talk about where we might go from here as an ad hoc. So I'll transition, and Josie, I'm going to turn it over to you to lead the discussion about protocol.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about protocol, we're talking about process. We're talking about the work of this ad hoc and how we're going to set it up and go forward from here. I think it's discussion. I think it is what we make of it and what we talk about. I do want to highlight a couple of things just so that we essentially have some ground rules, because for purposes of our commission ad hocs, the commissioners are the ones that are kind of as stated in our rules, the decision makers. But that doesn't mean that we don't come from a place of trying to find consensus and make consensus and having discussions about the aspects of whatever it is that we do, when it goes to process, when it goes to what to focus on, the next steps, input, etc. Part of that is because, as Chair and Commissioner Harpen-Forte have said, there's a lot of work, and we certainly cannot do it ourselves, which is why we have members of this ad hoc as part of the ad hoc, rather than just taking input from the public, because each one of you has specialized knowledge, has incredible backgrounds, and work with OPD as with the community to really get us to a point where we can have a very informed process of how to move forward, and what to do, and sort of work on these particular tasks. There's a couple of things I wanted to mention, and one is that our rules do say, and I'm gonna just recap what I said before, our rules do mention that when community members or even former commissioners are put onto ad hocs, they are appointed essentially as non-voting chairs, or non-voting members, I'm sorry, and that's rule 2.15. And it discusses specifically former commissioners as well as members of the public as non-voting members being appointed to an ad hoc. But I don't want that to, and I don't think any of the commissioners want that to be just the end of it, right? This is a group. There is a group where we hope to come to consensus about a way to move forward on whatever the task may be, and to have discussion on as many things, or to keep everyone in the loop as much as possible. So along those lines, what I think maybe makes sense is having a regular cadence of meetings with the entire group, so that we have regular check-ins. There are going to be times and situations where the commissioners need to meet with council, and potentially even with the city, in order to discuss things that are confidential or might be attorney-client privileged. I think that those are meetings that we take off of the regular cadence. That's just a suggestion. By no means is that the decision. Just my suggestion. And then we bring back things and decision points to the ad hoc, and then so we're all on the same page, we're all in the same loop, and then we all can move forward together. Sorry, I'm going through my list right now. I don't think we have yet a decision or a thought about, and we don't have any like non-ad hoc members on this meeting right now, but I do think at some point we need to sort of have a discussion about how we might take public input outside of this ad hoc. And again, I want to try to make as many of these decisions that we can a consensus if possible, and at the last resort, commissioners voting. Thoughts, questions, comments, other suggestions, anybody?
I wanted to add, I was really heartened by what Mariana brought in about what Cheng Tao said about making the police less like their culture, more like Oakland's culture. And, you know, one of the reasons why I was able to join this ad hoc committee is because it's an ad hoc committee. It doesn't have to run like a normal commission meetings under, you know, the really oppressive and white supremacist like Robert's rules and all that stuff. We actually run this like a community meeting, and be, you know, in partnership and neighbors with each other. And that's really what I hope that we can do too. I know that there have been some, and Mariana, you have shared with me, Jesse, you have shared with me, there's been some like opportunities out there for this ad hoc to eventually become something more like a standing committee, which will fall under the purview of Robert's rules and like sunshine laws. But right now we have an opportunity to build a new type of culture and how we work with each other on a serious matter like this. And I've seen it happen at the Reimagine Task Force meetings, for example, when we were able to break out into our community groups. And I think some folks here were able to participate. It felt like we had I had some 17-year-olds in my group, and I had some, you know, elders in my group, and we were able to talk to each other like, you know, the way I talk to my neighbors. And I really appreciated that experience. So I'm hoping for, and I guess this is my wish for this ad hoc committee, that we can, if this is a reset, that we can come back to the space, maybe have some group agreements and just make it come back to that Oakland community feel, and less of what the police commission feel might be, less of what of a feeling that like, because, you know, like those rules, I'm still like shaken from what's happening in Tennessee, you know, like Nashville, like those rules, once we learn them all, we use it against each other, and they use it against us, and we end up losing, you know. So the best part about Oakland is we actually have, you go to like Farmer Joe's and you know the protocol, you say hi to each other, you stop and I'm not going to belabor this, but can we get back to that? And that would be really cool to see in this group.
I think that's a great, those are some great thoughts and definitely some great ideas. I do want to try to move us in that direction. The last 2 months, maybe 3 months have been a bit of a tear and have been quite stressful, short deadlines, people joining the ad hocs as sort of were moving along and at different points. And as you mentioned, I'm going to give credit to you, Nikki, it was your idea. That taking the time and moving forward, we do a full reset and we try to move together with some, what's the word I'm looking for? I think you mentioned it.
Union agreements.
Thank you. Thank you. Some suggestions as to what those might be.
I have a list, but
I'm sorry, typically when we have ad hocs, and Pastor Jackie and Mariana have served on ad hocs before, and so has Jose. We've typically set, like even for the shipper ad hoc, we set, I think it was like every other Tuesday or something. For the community policing ad hoc, we had standing meetings for that community policing ad hoc. And so we were scheduled, and then we also have to avoid conflicts with other ad hoc committees because there are only so many commissioners to go around, and many of us are on different ad hocs. But now that we know that we will be around until at least this September, the September case management conference, we can definitely set some regular meetings so that everyone can plan on those meetings and plan on those meeting times, and we can have, again, we want to build consensus, but we're also taking in some things from other members of the public at commission meetings. And at commission meetings, people also give us wonderful input about things, as they did with our last court filing. Omar Farmer gave some wonderful suggestions about some things that we should put in that memo and stuff. So people have a lot of ideas, and we want to get everybody's ideas. At some point, there'll have to be some triaging of them. And at some point, the commission will make the decision, but we want the input. We want your ideas, we want your experience, and we want us to work collaboratively together as we move forward, with the understanding that we need your input and we need your thoughts and we need your ideas. Sometimes there may have to be some hard calls made, but they're not to try to exclude anything when necessary. And we're getting input from others. For example, the city attorney had some ideas about some things that we could use to move forward. And I'll just give the example, such as the MOUs. The city attorney says we should do that. You should put that in your plan. We should look and see how we can do that in an interim, not so much as anything permanent, but maybe some of the things that are missing and that were identified in the Clarence Dyer report, we can take up rather than waiting for a city charter change or some new legislation or something, that we can get some things done. So there's a lot of input that we are sort of juggling and making some decisions about. And I do hope that everybody understands that we are acting in good faith, and that we do have to make some calls, and it's nothing personal. And I hope we can get to that. As Jose knows, we had a lot of discussions, even on community policing. People had many different ideas, and we try to synthesize as much as we can. We are sometimes dealing with competing interests, and and Pastor Jackie knows as well. Usually she can just sort of cut to the chase and just like, I think we should say this. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's great. So anyway, but I did want to just reassure everybody that we need your input, we need your thoughts, and we need your ideas. And we also need your understanding that that you're here, you were invited to participate, you were invited to and we want you and we want your thoughts, but please don't take it personally if we don't do exactly what you think we ought to do. Pastor Jackie, do you have any comments or anything? I didn't know you. I didn't know if you
No, I was
turned on
gonna
your
say,
camera
excuse
to
my
raise your hand.
off-camera status. Generally, when I'm off camera, it's because I'm doing double duty. But I did want to say, particularly Nikki, it's nice to put a face with an email. Pleasure to meet you. We hold tension well. I would not want anyone to think that often these kinds of conversations or roles or commitments don't have tension. They do. I think they do because everyone on the call is one, committed and passionate about justice, about equity, about constitutional policing. We are all coming from different perspectives and vantage points. And so as such, when things come up, there are different touch points and different triggers. And I think that's very open. But I think what's most important is everyone kind of stays in the room. Mm-hmm. And we work through that together. And there is the freedom to say, I'm not sure this is the right direction. If this is consensus, okay, but let me voice my concern and objection. And I think that's very important. And I think what I have found, at least in the persons I've been blessed to serve on this ad hoc committee with, everyone has remained true to who they are. And I think that's most important. And so if there's a disagreement, vehement or not, I think there's place for that with the understanding that there are persons who have been commissioned to make the decision. So I just wanted to add. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mariano
Colon
has their hand up.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Sorry to interrupt. Mariano has their hand up.
Okay. All right, Mariana, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I'm interested in the list that Nikki has. But before we do that, I would recommend that that these rules, these hard decisions, this protocol, that this be presented, and that this not only be a reset for this particular ad hoc, that this be a reset for every ad hoc, that this protocol be presented at every ad hoc and before they begin, so that everyone coming in knows exactly what to expect, what these protocols are. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm not naive. I'm not new to this game. I've been doing police accountability since 1976 here in Oakland. Expecting the CPRB to be the end all for police accountability was our only expectation at that time. And so, taking it from there to now, you learn some things as you go along. But I just want, and this is not personal. This is not personal at all. When I raise a concern about being excluded, what I do take personal is that my community has been excluded, not me as an individual, but my community who I represent here. I'm not speaking for Mariano Contreras, I'm speaking for the community that I represent. And so that I do take personal. But so I would expect that, these protocols be presented at that they be written up, because let's be honest, this is the first time a lot of us are being made aware of these protocols, that there's some hard decisions that the commissioners, are the decision makers, and I knew all that. I don't want to take anything away from you folks, the police commissioners. You guys have worked put in so much time, as volunteers. And, when you applied, when you were selected, when you interviewed, you guys put so much time into this. And so I do not want to take anything away from the position that you have now, because the community put you there. This is a civilian oversight body. And so, this was put on by the community. So I just would like to, make sure that this is presented, maybe at the next police commission, that there be a document that specifically specifies, these protocols, and that they be presented to every ad hoc member from here on out. Thank you.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, Commissioner, Pastor Jackie, I'll hear from you before I respond.
Okay, I'm sorry, connected but not connected. When Mariano mentioned community, I had a question because I know that he had written a letter last night. The NAACP informed us that they had written a letter to the judge as well. And so was there any discussion or any mention or acknowledgement that community members had directly attempted to weigh in that form?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
And we're not sure what the judge may have done with the communications. But no, there was no acknowledgement of them at the court hearing. And I want to say that with respect to written protocols, the Rules Committee is working on the procedures for ad hoc committees. And while we generally try to explain to people at the outset, I thought that we did, for example, with community policing. I think when we first started those hearings, we explained the featured community participants and stuff. And that part of the reasons we have to be careful is also based on on advice of counsel, in terms of making sure that nobody perceives you as a commissioner. And there are only 3 commissioners allowed on an ad hoc. So there could be some Brown Act implications. There could be also some liability implications, because if somebody wants to sue and then they say, I want to sue every quote unquote commissioner who participated, it's kind of like, well, these community members are not commissioners, and so they don't have any liability for the final decisions or anything. But it is a way to protect everybody. But I agree, and I had talked with the chair before about there ought to be, we might even consider having people sign an agreement that says, okay, I'll serve on the ad hoc, but I understand these limitations and stuff, so that there is no confusion. But the Rules Committee is working on some rules to make it clear and try to avoid confusion. And I think also, that most importantly, we are passionate. We have reasons for our positions and everything, but I just hope that we can agree without being disagree rather, without being disagreeable. And I like that, state your position, defend it. And what I used to tell the attorneys in court, back me into a corner, tell me why what I'm thinking about doing is just wrong. I'm never going to hold that against you. Make your case. And often I'm educated by people speaking passionately and telling me things that I don't know. And so we all come together, we bring our own personal experiences to the table. We bring family experiences, we bring community experiences to the table, and we make decisions based on that experience. So, but we just have to remember that at the end of the day, we're all in it for the good of Oakland. And there may be different ways to get to a certain end point, but that's why we're there. And Chair Malela, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. So Jesse was talking about some agreements, and to the point you just made, one agreement I always like to use from my my mentor, Kathleen Harris, is hard on the problem, easy on the people. Because we obviously, we want to go hard on these issues. And like I said before, systemic racism is a huge issue that I would love to go hard on. But if we can go easy on each other while we're doing that, that would be helpful.
Very good. Lieutenant Kalange, is there anything that you have to add or throw in or anything before we should sort of get to next steps before we end? And we are already at 7:23. What time were we scheduled, from 6 to 7? Oh my goodness. Okay. anything from you or on behalf of OPD or anything?
No, I am honored to have been nominated to join you, and I hope to be a good resource for you and to provide information and context and serve however I best can. So thank you for having me.
All right, great, great, great. So one of the things we should talk about now then is where do we go from here? As I said, we are going to be operational until at least the September hearing. Commissioner Shea, do you want to say something before we move on?
No, this is for the next steps.
I'm sorry.
This is for next steps.
For next steps, okay. So we should talk about what our next steps are going to be, and what we some things we're going to have to wait really in terms of scope of work. We're going to have to wait for the judge's final order to try to get a sense of what things we're going to have to do. I think that task 5 and 45 are going to still be on the table. But we need to talk about, and we should talk about whether we set regular meetings and everything. But Commissioner Shea, I'm going to turn it over to you. Go ahead.
So I want to I want to carry some of the momentum of this reset and sort of take to start setting regular meetings, but also to take on 2 of the things that were mentioned here today, both the agreements that Nikki mentioned, as to what those agreements might be. Perhaps you can send us a list, or people can propose agreements, so that we could have that for the next meeting. Also, for perhaps our ground rules for the ad hoc. I know that we can't necessarily impose our will upon other ad hocs at the moment, and what exactly we can do or get the entire commission to agree on, but at the very least we can start with our ad hoc and what ground rules we may have. And those 2 things, agreements and ground rules, could be separate, same, separate, different, whatever, open book right now. But I do think we should work on those, and perhaps for our next meeting, and especially by then we'll actually have the order and know what we're dealing with.
Thank you. And one other thing, 2020 is all hindsight's always 2020. And so we were moving on a very fast track, and as we're fond of saying in the commission, we were trying to fly the plane at the same time as we were building it. So we were just sort of all over the place trying to get some things done, and it's not always a smooth flight. Let's talk about, should we try now, you think, to try to set a date to try to agree upon? Should we even do a poll, almost like a doodle poll, to try to figure out, everybody can check their calendars and then see what might be a date? Should we do every other week, every 3 weeks or something for now? Or should we even wait until after the order is entered, and then sort of go from there? Because again, then we'll have a better sense of the scope of work of this ad hoc. Any thoughts on that? So we could set another meeting, and then at the next meeting, try to figure out what regular intervals we will need to meet. It may be that we need to start meeting weekly. I don't know. I'm hoping not. But it may be every other week, and hopefully that'll even be too much. And maybe once a month for the next few months, and then maybe meet more often the closer we get to September. Commissioner Shea.
It seems like we are all here and available on the Wednesdays. On a Wednesday, the only person I don't see who is on our ad hoc is Reggie Lyles, and I'm not sure if that's because Wednesday is a bad day for him or not.
Wednesday's a terrible day for me. I just want to say I was able to do it today.
Okay.
But generally that's a no-go.
Yeah. And I know
I think
Thursday.
a doodle poll, I think, is a good idea. And I also think it is wisdom to wait until we have an order. I don't know how anyone else feels. I'm pretty still unclear about the scope of work for this committee and what the expectation is. I've heard generalizations, and that's fine. But I do think in terms of setting things in a schedule, at least for my schedule, something a bit more concrete would be helpful, so that if I know it's going to be every other week, I'll know which day would be better, as opposed to every 3 weeks or once a month, so that I'm not always doing double duty, camera off.
Yes,
So
yes.
just the thought.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you. Chair Malala, your hand is still up. Should we just concentrate now on setting another meeting? At that next meeting, we will have the rules. We may have, a draft agreement, sort of a protocol or something. We'll have the order, and then we can go from there. Twee, what do you think is a safe time to set the next meeting? How many weeks? 2 weeks out? You think the judge is gonna have us something in a week?
Reading the body language of the judge, I think he'll have something within a week. So I think anytime after Tuesday next week would I think would be safe.
Okay, and evenings are good. And what about some of the Jesse, are you on any ad hocs that already meet regularly? Our SIPRA ad hoc was on Tuesdays, but we're sort of done with that.
I'm every other Tuesday, every other Monday, and I've got one more somewhere. I can't remember where.
Okay. Any evenings that are not good? If we meet about 6 o'clock, any evenings that are not good for people?
I don't want to speak for Reggie Lyles, but I know that he teaches a class on Thursdays.
Thursdays, yes, I know Thursdays not good for him.
I'm surprised, right?
Yeah.
Mondays and Wednesdays are not good for me.
Yeah, we can't do Wednesday. What about you can't do Mondays? What about a Tuesday? Today is the 11th. The 18th is a week from, I'm sorry, today's the 12th. The 18th is a week from Tuesday, or we could go the 25th. Go out to the last.
I have rules on the 25th. I could join at 7.
At 7?
Yeah, but I don't want to. So I could come late. I could come late.
Could we?
I'm in the same boat for Tuesdays. I'm sorry. I pick up my granddaughter from 5 to 7, and then sometimes it's a little bit later, so I would get there late. Sorry.
Okay. So we can't do Mondays. What about middle of the day? Is that just impossible to do, like a 12:15 to? That probably is not good. Okay. And we tend to, and some people tend to talk a lot. Not me. Everybody else tends to talk a lot. We tend to go over time. But anyway, let us.
I was April 20th. Just throwing it out there. April 20th, 6 p.m.
I can't do that. I'll be out of town.
I tried.
And then the 27th is a board meeting. Anybody want to see? And that Friday, the 28th is not good.
If we're going out that far, I think taking up Pastor Jackie's idea of a doodle or a poll to figure out a date is probably going to be more productive right now.
Just to jump in with that, and instead of a doodle poll, I'll likely send something out called When to Meet, and it'll have the days, and you just kind of highlight the times you're available. That way, with a doodle poll, it kind of limits you to selecting yes or no for each day, but you can just show your availability, and then it kind of does like a heat map of when there are the most mutually available times. So I'll send that.
Okay, great. And Kelly, did you have your hand up a little while ago that I overlooked?
Oh, earlier I just wasn't sure if I wanted to kind of uplift the community agreement suggestion from Nikki and suggest a few, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so everybody will look for the When to Meet survey that Kelly will send to everyone. Indicate availability, and then we'll pick a date from there. Again, I want to thank you. I'm actually looking forward to continuing the work for this ad hoc and doing our part to just go back to being regular community. What the Oakland Police Commission was really formed for, which would, and we really thought that we'd be out from under the NSA by now. Anybody would have after 20 plus years, but here we are. Okay, thank you all very much. Really appreciate this. Was a very good conversation. Take care.
Thanks for all the work and setting up those slides and giving us information. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
yes. Our commission counsel, she's really good. Thank you.
I
Take care.
emailed some draft community agreements that I heard today, so y'all can look at it and then see what you want to add or take away. And next time, maybe we can dig into it. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Good night,
Thank you.
folks.
Good night.